number 10 in our series of discussion starters from James. And we're in chapter 4. If you remember last time, we talked about quarrels and fights among Christians. And I imagine you've had some interesting discussion on that if you've been around Christians and thought about how that happens. This next piece has more about our part. And I want to point out that there's a verse in between the first 5 verses and 7 through 10 that reminds us that it's a pivotal piece. It comes from Proverbs 3:34, and James says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. I don't know whether you measure pride in your own life, and I'm not exactly sure how we do that, but what I noticed here is that James gives us 10 action verbs in this passage between 7 and 10 that sort of shake us up a little bit. Notice it. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Grieve, mourn, and wail. Change your laughter to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. I like that last one in verse 10 because it's basically a reflection of Matthew 23:12, where Jesus talks about the humble will be exalted and the exalted will be humbled. He will lift you up. When we talk about quarrels and fights, it usually has to do with our pride. And I have a friend of mine who says that pride is the root of all iniquity. In other words, he's saying that pride is the cause of all other sins in our life. And in reality, I think he's right. Pride often elevates us above God, even in our own minds sometimes. And if you want to test as to whether you're working on this or not, go down in verse 11 and 12. Brothers, don't slander anyone. Anyone who speaks against his brother or judges him speaks against the law and judges it. It's a test as to whether we're proud or not. I mean, are we down-talking somebody else? I mean, what good is that? They're sinners just like we are. And if we're saved, both of us, why are we downplaying our brothers? For me, that's a crucial piece. Because if I find myself speaking against somebody else, I probably am not humble. And if I'm not humble, I'm not in a good place with God. In fact, if I'm not humble, it sets me up for sin in my life. So, are we judging our neighbors? Are we looking at others differently? If we're looking at anyone else in judgment, we have taken our eyes off Jesus. And when we look at Hebrews 12:2, it says to fix our eyes on Jesus. So I'd like for you to think about what pride is doing in your life and where it's fixing your attention. And if it has fixed your attention on anything other than Jesus. Think about it.